Hello everyone, and welcome to this third tutorial on Imperial Japan's unofficial peace feelers. So far in this series of tutorials, we've been looking at the Vatican City and also Portugal, where unofficially there were attempts made by Imperial Japan in trying to find a solution out of this very destructive war in which it found itself in 1945. So today we're going to be examining these unofficial peace initiatives, this time through Switzerland. So let's get straight into it. So the source documentation we're going to be using today is another OSS report, and you can see the screen in front of you. This is where the source is from. It was actually approved for release in 1993. So 22nd September 1993 was when these documents became unclassified. Let's get straight into it then. Let's scroll down and let's examine these OSS reports, which are quite, I found quite revealing in the fact that it does illustrate and highlight Imperial Japan's initiatives in trying to bring this war to an end. So firstly, if we look at the 12th of May 1945, you'll see here memorandum for the president. Let's examine this document. So the following information transmitted by the OSS representative in Bern originates a German source, the authority on the Far East, who is considered anti-Nazi but pro-Japanese. Now, the source on the 11th of May talked with Sunichi Kasei, the Japanese minister to Switzerland. So this Sunichi Kasei was the actual Japanese minister to Switzerland. He reports that Kasei expressed a wish to help arrange a cessation of hostilities between the Japanese and the Allies. So that's pretty important, I feel, to highlight. The actual Japanese minister to Switzerland, who was Sunichi Kasei, he reported that he wanted to try to arrange a cessation of hostilities between the Japanese and the Allies. Reading further, Kasei reportedly considers direct talks with Americans and the British preferable to negotiations through the USSR, because the latter eventually would increase Soviet prestige so much that the whole Far East would become communist. So this is quite revealing, I found, this document, that the actual minister to Switzerland from Imperial Japan at the time was trying to arrange a cessation of hostilities between the Japanese and the Allies. Once again, this was all known to the hierarchy of the US government at the time. It was all passed on to President Truman, this kind of desire and perhaps unofficial, under the table peace initiative. Reading on, if you look at the third paragraph, it says Kasei allegedly believes that one of the few provisions the Japanese would insist upon would be the retention of the emperor as the only safeguard against Japan's conversion to communism. Okay, Kasei feels Undersecretary of State Gru, whom he considers the best U.S. authority in Japan, shares this opinion. So once again, as we heard in the previous tutorial, when we were examining Japan's unofficial peace feelers through Portugal, that the retention of the emperor again is brought up here. This concern that in accepting any peace terms, the emperor's position must be clarified. He must be retained in any future Japanese government. So once again, this was passed up through the U.S. chain of command at the time to the highest echelon. So they knew how important the emperor actually was to the average Japanese citizen, and especially to the actual prevailing government at the time in accepting any unconditional surrender terms. So I thought that was quite revealing there from the 12th of May. Moving on to the 4th of June. So the following information was transmitted by the OSS representative in Bern, in Switzerland, on the 2nd of June. It is a sequel to the memorandum dated on the 12th of May 1945, so what we just read, concerning an alleged Japanese peace feeler The source of the information is the same German authority on the Far East who is considered anti-Nazi but pro-Japanese. So let me just read the second paragraph, which is quite important, I believe, in actually demonstrating once again Imperial Japan's unofficial desire to try find a way out of this war. So reading from the second paragraph, the source is in touch with Fujimura, who is understood to be one of the principal Japanese naval representatives in Europe and a former assistant naval attaché in Berlin. Okay, so this second source, Fujimura, who was a high-ranking Japanese naval representative in Europe, apparently Fujimura is reported to be in direct and secret contact by cable with the Japanese Minister of Marine and is believed to enjoy the confidence of the Japanese government. Okay, Fujimura indicated to source that the Navy circles who now control the Japanese government would be willing to surrender but wish, if possible, to save some face from the present wreckage. These Navy circles, he declares, particularly stress the necessity of preserving the emperor. So once again, we've got the same narrative coming through here, this concern of saving and preserving the status of the emperor. Okay, so reading on then, Fujimura emphasizes that Japan cannot supply itself with basically essential foodstuffs and it is dependent upon Korea for sugar and rice. So this is very revealing, I feel, this OSS report, because not only does it reveal once again that Japanese were willing to accept on the unconditional surrender terms as long as it clarified and guaranteed the position of Emperor Hirohito. In other words, that he's not going to be put on trial, he's not going to be disposed of, that he will still be in a position of government in accepting any unconditional surrender terms. Okay, it also illustrates what a weakened state Japan actually was in 1945, as Fujimura emphasized that Japan could not supply itself with just even basic foodstuffs. It was completely dependent on Korea at that time for any imports of essential goods such as sugar and rice. So it really does show what a weakened state Japan was in economically in 1945, but it also illustrates once again the importance of retaining the Emperor Hirohito in any future government. So I thought those two OSS reports were quite interesting there, and once again does illuminate Imperial Japan's peace feelers in 1945. Although these were unofficial, but still they were known to Emperor Hirohito, who did not disapprove of them, and these reports did find their way up to the highest echelons, the highest hierarchy in the US government at the time, and ultimately with President Truman. He was aware that there were these peace feelers being initiated